You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Welcome to the Rock Your Life podcast. Discover the tools you need to fulfill the highest, truest expression of yourself. From family and wellness to business and goals, it's time to dream out loud. It's time to rock it.
This stuff will rock your world. Rock!
And now your host, Chasta.
Got you. Hi, Renel. How are you?
Good for you.
I'm so great. You look so beautiful. Thank you so much for being with me today.
That's sweet of you to say. You look beautiful as well. We had a 4-hour, 22-minute game last night.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot. That is a lot. What time did you get home?
Oh, babe, what time did I get home? I don't even know.
She's like, what day is it?
11.
No, 11? It couldn't have been.
Between 10:30
I
and
don't
11.
know.
Girl, I don't make it past 9 o'clock these days, so anything past that.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
great.
long and so late. 6:45, 4 hours. Oh, geez. Anyway, it was, I don't even know. And it never fails. Whenever I have to be up to do something the next morning,
It goes long. Of course.
Oh,
Yeah. That's the rule of life right there. Well,
It is.
even more so than I appreciate you taking the time to be with me on the podcast today. I just want to officially introduce myself. I know you, everyone knows Renel, but I'm Chasta. I work on the Bone here in San Francisco. I'm the only girl in the station, so holla.
Okay. I've been down that road. Okay,
I know we're going to bond over that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do that and I work for Soundwaves TV. That is my TV show that promotes local music. And then I have this podcast, the Rock Your Life podcast, which is all about taking your life to the next level and going for it and doing everything you can, max capacity. So you're a huge inspiration to me and I'm just really excited to have you on today.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. Yeah, I was the only girl way back in the late 80s. So.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that we would have more representation all these years later, but it's still an uphill battle.
You know, it's amazing, Renel. And that was one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about today. So, I mean, everybody knows you. You're a San Francisco icon, but a lot of people listen to this podcast that aren't in San Francisco. So just to catch everyone up, Renel, you have been on radio for 30 plus years. You had a huge radio career here in the Bay. You've been the PA announcer for the San Francisco Giants for 20 years. You've been on TV. I mean, you've done it all here in the Bay and everyone knows you. You're like, your name is Renel Brooks-Moon, but everyone knows you. You're the Cher of the Bay Area. It's just Renel.
Well, thank you for that. I love
And I mean that in name only, obviously.
Listen, I love Cher. I don't mind being compared to her or being mentioned in the same sentence at all.
Okay, good. I'm glad. But yeah, you've done a lot to say the least. But one thing that really stuck out was that you and we do bond over that, being women in predominantly male industries, that being radio and of course sports broadcasting as well. We're two girls that have had to hold it down. So, what's been your secret for being a female in this male world all this time?
I don't know if there really is a secret. I know that we as women, and especially women of color, have to work 2 times, 3 times, 4 times harder. I have faced great adversity. There have been many times where I've just wanted to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
But when I wake up, Chasta, I gotta meditate and center myself and understand that what I do, I love it and it's fantastic, but it also comes with such a huge responsibility.
Sure.
Little girls are watching us and young women are watching us. And it's our responsibility to show them the possibilities that they have now, slim though they may appear to us.
Yeah.
But when I was a little girl, none of this was possible for me.
Yeah.
So I try to just keep that in mind. And, you just got to keep your eyes on the prize and stay the course, because although we have made some advancements, like you and I were just saying, it's ridiculous that you're the only woman there, right?
Yeah.
In 2020.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that I've had a secret. I do know that I'm exhausted.
Yeah, because you've had to fight all this time.
From
I
work,
get it.
hard, you know, and in my radio career, you know, I was never treated the same as my male counterparts. I never made the same money.
Oh,
And,
no.
you know, and then when I would, you know, speak up for myself and, ask for what I'm worth, then we get labeled as difficult or not a team player. So there are so many challenges. But the other thing that's really important is I have such great girlfriends, not just in this industry, but in my life. But it's so important to have good girlfriends in this industry because nobody knows what it's like. You and I have just met, but I guarantee you we probably have a million of the same stories and experiences.
Oh, absolutely. You know? Yeah. You know, it's funny because you just now when you were saying that, like I remember going through contracts and them asking, well, your husband makes good money, right? Right? Yeah. I mean, I've been in radio for almost 20 years, you know, so I've gone through a lot of radio stations, a lot of markets, just like you have. That's the nature of radio, going through a lot of stations. And so you deal with a lot of different managers and a lot of different contracts happen and all kinds of things. And those are questions that women just get. That's just the way it is, you know, and most often I've been either the only female period or the only full-time female, most of the time, the only girl on a morning show for sure. So it's an interesting place to be. And you do have to be a confident girl and be like, I tell myself I'm a badass every single day when I wake up. That's like, it hangs on my mirror. You're a badass bitch.
Yes.
I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. And you are. And that's what keeps us going because this is bigger than us, what we do. It's so much bigger than us. Yeah.
And how cool is it that like when little girls go to Oracle Park, you know, they see you in the booth and they see what you do and it just goosies, right? It gives me like chills to think about little girls, like they have you as an inspiration.
It's been amazing. And I would have to say that the most rewarding part of this job is the impact that it has on little girls and little boys too, because my gender nor my race, they could care less.
Right.
They bring me their little league cards or they wait for me to show up at the ballpark so I can sign their gloves or their caps. And little girls, just if they see me at the ballpark, they'll just come and just hug me.
Oh my God.
It's so fantastic. So yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to sit in that booth and be that light and that, you know, vision of possibility for little girls especially, but for little boys to not, you know, care, you know, they're growing up in a different time, you know, they see women sportscasters all the time. That's not uncommon to them. So that was, I didn't see that coming. So those things have just been icing on the cake of what is already an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the Giants take such great care of you. They're a great organization and what you do is so, so cool. I have to say, like, I've been on the air for 20 years. You've been on the air your whole career. Do you ever get nervous still? Because it's different doing what you do than obviously me being in a studio like this on a microphone where I don't see the millions of people. You have like a lot of people looking back at you. Do you get nervous? I mean, you've done it 20 years. I'm sure it's kind of old hat now, but that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's so funny because I've only been nervous twice. Game 1, April 11th, 2000.
Oh my God.
The very first game, and I was on the field to host the pregame ceremony. I wasn't, so I'm on.
Oh, hell no. Oh my God.
And not only in front of 40,000 people, but, you know, a million people watching on television as well.
Sure. Right? Oh, Lord.
So that was one. The second one was game 3 of the 2002 World Series. The first game we played here at home.
Right.
And all of a sudden there's all this attention on me, Chasta, because I'm the first woman to ever do this, not just in baseball, but to announce a championship game in any professional sport. And we're playing the Angels. And so I'm getting all of these media requests from Southern California news outlets, which I was like not in any way, shape, or form prepared for.
Right.
I was like, well, so I couldn't even get, you know, my game face on or get in my zone because I was doing media all day.
Right.
My stomach was in knots. I couldn't eat. And, you know, now I'm going really to the world. It's the World Series. They're going to hear my voice all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the 2 times that I've been super nervous. I don't get nervous anymore. It's like riding a bike. I'm so comfortable. But here's something that my program director, my very first job, when he put me on the air, he said, I want you to just imagine yourself in your living room with your family and friends.
Yeah.
I want you to be who you are. Don't change your tone. Don't change your voice.
Yeah.
Be that woman that we see in the coffee room and the copy machine.
Yeah.
Listeners can tell if you're not your authentic self.
So true. Oh my God.
Right. And I
Yeah.
still hear, and he's still in my life. Shout out to Dave Sholin, the Duke. He's still in my life and has still been a mentor. Every time before I turn a mic on, I always hear him say that, be your authentic self. Now, obviously in baseball, you know, it is Major League Baseball, so I can't, you know, be wacky and zany, obviously.
Right.
But my style has evolved over the years where I have kind of allowed myself to let a little bit of my personality come into the game if it's warranted. Like last night, at the end of the game, I was like, I gave the final totals, and I'm like, in time of tonight's game, 4 hours and 22, you know?
Right. And you have earned the right to throw your personality out there. I mean, you've been with the Giants for 20 years and everybody adores you. So that, you know, I'm sure that's no big deal.
Thank you. But, you know, you do have to respect the game, but there are
Sure.
times that I can, you know, kind of throw in a little bit of Renel. And actually, the great Roy Steele, who just passed away, the voice of God at the Oakland Coliseum, was such a wonderful friend and colleague. And he kind of gave me license to kind of relax my style a bit, you know?
Yeah. It's so true, being authentic to who you are and connecting with your audience. You know, I actually had a similar experience with a PD who put up a picture of my nephew in front of me and was like, talk to that kid, you know, and he was like, and so it's been ever evolving, and his coaching style was a little abrupt. So, but I mean, I don't want to give him credit because he wasn't a super nice guy, but, but I will say he had a good point. And so even while I was at that time doing news and traffic reporting, which was more serious, like what you're saying, like I needed to be respectful of what I was saying. He wanted me to lay back and be a little bit more casual. But now, you know, on the bone and jockeying, my listeners are my family. And I'm sure you always felt like that too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you live your whole life on the microphone.
You really do. It's unbelievable. Actually, it's not unbelievable, but radio is so personal, as you know, and the connections that you make. I mean, I still have listeners reach out to me and say, I'll never forget listening to you on 9/11 and how you got us through that morning.
Right.
Or it's attached to a family memory. It's, you know, especially, you know, doing morning radio, especially you're getting up, you're getting the kids ready, you're getting ready for work and everything. But I still have, I met you at the In Vogue concert in 1998. You know, I still get these
Totally
wonderful memories. You really are such a part of people's lives. And I will say that a lot of our male colleagues don't get that. It might just be a woman thing because we're naturally, you know, nurturers and everything. But the guys just go in and they just think they can do this. We actually care about what we're saying and the information that we're giving to our audiences. You know, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's a privilege to be able to entertain and inform them each and every day. Then the guys just kind of come in, and not all of them, but they just, you know, phone it in a lot of the time.
They come in and it's okay for them to be silly or say things that are off the cuff. And I think maybe that goes back to being in a position where you're a minority, like being an only woman on a radio station. Like I take that very seriously, you know, because I feel like I'm speaking on behalf of women. You know what I mean? It's like, and yeah. And I mean, especially with Lamont and Tonelli, because they're so crazy and zany and over the top that part of my job is to sort of pull back the dial a little bit. You know what I mean? Because if you live at 11 all the time, then it's too much, right? It's like too crazy, too over the top. So my job in part is to sort of pull it back in my own way, which is the way that I, you know, do it. But it is something that I take very seriously, and connecting with our audiences. Like you said, like people will send you messages. It's always things that you don't even realize people will like connect with too. You know what I mean? I've always found that it's like, you know, people will be like, oh yeah, I remember when you said that one thing, and you don't even remember saying.
Oh, it's so powerful. That microphone is so powerful, and it comes with huge responsibility. I mean, of course, what we do, it's fun and we love it, and it's entertainment, and you know, we get to meet and interview, you know, some of our favorite artists. That's great, but that microphone comes with such power and such responsibility. I've always felt that, particularly what we're living through now. How important is the microphone now, going through COVID and the racial strife and unrest and everything? This this mic is a powerful tool for us right now.
I will tell you, Renel, I take my job so seriously. Especially right now with everything, especially since COVID and then what started happening with this racial movement. And it's so important to my heart. And that's actually when I launched this podcast, because I was like, oh, hell no, I got to say something. Like I am tired of being on the air where I can only, have a minute and a half at a time to say my piece. I'm going to dig in and talk about some important stuff. And so yeah, because it's like, God, we do have this microphone and we can express ourselves in limited ways. But if you really want to get it all out there, you can now do it on a podcast, however you want. And look, like you're saying, I know people on the bone, they're there for very specific purposes. Like they want to connect with me, but they want the music, they want the funnies and all that stuff. I figured if people want to go deep and get some important information out there, that this was a good place to do it. So how have you been holding up with everything, with COVID, with the racial insanity that's been happening, with the politics, and it's only going to get worse from here? Like, how are you dealing with everything?
Not well. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Not well. It has been, I think I heard somebody say it's almost 3 months to the day that George Floyd was murdered. I think I heard that on the air this morning.
Yeah.
And these 3 months they've kicked my behind in so many ways. I mean, first of all, when shelter in place hit, I have a 94-year-old mother that lives by herself down in Menlo Park. She's doing better than all of us. Let me just say that.
I love that.
But obviously she was my main concern. It's like, I wasn't thinking about myself, and it's like, I don't want her to be isolated, but thank God we've got wonderful neighbors, and she's still just as social and as busy as ever. And then I was like, well, what's going to happen with my work? I mean, not just the baseball season, but all the other voiceover work that I do and all of the events that I host annually. And I'm like, well, I was just sitting around for a couple of weeks going, okay.
Yeah, this is weird. It's like the rug got pulled out from under us.
And then I kind of got into my head and I started really kind of worrying about stuff. And I got, when Michelle Obama said she had low-grade depression, I was like, well, I'm right there with you. And in fact, I don't think mine is low grade. I think mine's, a little higher, because I could not figure out my role in the world and what my life was going to look like. So, and then I know we're going to get to talking about fitness, but it's a huge part of my world is my gym workout every morning. Amen. I mean, that is my lifeline. If I get to that gym first thing in the morning, clear it all out, and I'm good for the day. And also I've struggled with my weight my entire life. So, that was taken away from me, and then trying to figure out different ways to work out at home or outside. And then George Floyd was murdered. And well, prior to that, after those 2 weeks of not having anything, I was getting all of these requests to do PSAs, to remind everybody, stay at home, social distance, wear your mask, and a lot of PSAs and a lot of different virtual things with the Giants for our fan base. So that starts to come fast and furious. And then when George Floyd is murdered and the protests take over around the world, now I'm getting all these requests to be panelists and be in town halls and Zoom meetings to discuss race, to have those conversations that that I've been trying to have with people for my entire career. Really.
Amen. Yeah.
And so that it's like I've always been an activist, but it really stepped up a notch. And then I really realized how people really kind of view me in this community, because I was just getting, and I had to, my husband was like, you can't do everything. You can't.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You have to say, no, you are a voice, you are not the voice. But I also found that to be really, really impactful for me and very meaningful for me, that I could use my voice, as I've always tried to do throughout my career, for the greater good.
Sure.
But it's also been emotionally very taxing, because white people don't understand that every time we see a video or see another mom, like Jacob Blake's mom yesterday, we're reliving a trauma. And all of us have had that either happen to us or someone in our family. Sure. So every time we talk about it and every time we see a video, we're reliving a trauma. And I feel like I've just been on that hamster on the wheel, reliving that and talking about it And I finally just had to, check out for a few days.
Oh, sure. Oh, I mean, I could only imagine. I do have to ask, and I hope this isn't too personal, but like for you, so when I first launched this podcast, I launched it literally like a week before George Floyd was murdered. Yeah. And I said on that very first podcast, I'm like, this is the place I'm going to talk about hard things, and we're going to get in, we're going to make some change and all that stuff. And then that happened. And I was like, oh God, like here I am, a white girl. I'm in a box by myself, but I've got to talk about this because it was, it hit me so hard, obviously in a different way, but I was like, oh, hell no. So I went on and I did a podcast about it, and I felt really good about what I had said and done. And then my good friend, Marcus Osborne, he came on to Facebook and he messaged me. He's like, I'll be your Black friend. And he was like, because he is a dear friend of mine. He's like, but I'll be that guy for you. Let me talk to you. Let's do this on your podcast. You can ask me any questions. Nothing is off, limits. Just go. And I was like, oh God, it was so cool to have that like very open, free moment of just, you're not going to say anything wrong. There's no awkward moment here. We're just friends talking. And so we had another conversation about it on this podcast. And it was so healing for me to like hear how, and it's not about me, but to hear how like he was processing it in real time and like giving me grace to just say the wrong stuff and all that. But then again, so that's one side of it, right? Like you've been wanting to have this conversation, as you said, for years and years, but then you become, in his words, the token Black friend of every single white person that you know. They're like, oh, well, I'll just ask Renel. That's gotta be like, I guess good, but also exhausting. Like then you become sort of used in that way. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you're saying that totally right. And by the way, don't have any fear about saying the wrong thing, because the only wrong thing to say is to say nothing.
And that's what I felt. That's how I felt that time.
That's the only way we can move the conversation forward. That's the only way we can learn and grow and work together. We have to talk about it, and we haven't. And that's why everything's exploding in the way that it is now. For me though, my experience has been with my white friends, particularly the younger ones, the kids that I have mentored through the years, have all just really, first of all, what touched me is they reached out to just say, they all call me Mama R. Mama R, how are you? Are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah. And then it's like, they're not even asking me, they're checking on me and they're saying, I'm doing what I can. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to read.
Right.
I'm trying to educate myself. So they weren't even asking me for that help, although they knew I'm there for them should they need it.
Right. So
what I appreciated was more often than not, they were reaching out to really check on my well-being, because they know my journey, they know my history, they know my activism. So I didn't feel like I was like, the token Black friend at all. I really felt and that's why they're in my life,
right.
These kids' life. And then, in my, some of the colleagues, from back in the day, it's like, okay, I could maybe do without those conversations.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because I'm not so sure you all are so sincere and authentic. I feel like you just feel like you kind of need to do this now.
That's exactly my point. There was a lot of that. Because
the company probably now has a diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion. And so you have to do this to maybe, fulfill your obligation there.
Right.
But for my personal circle, I felt very much supported and cared for. So that for me was a real positive in all of this darkness.
And there's been so much darkness. I can't even understand how we're here in 2020. And I don't understand, speaking on behalf of, white folks, I don't understand how white people are like, I don't know what to do. What should I do next? Like, get in there, start learning, educate yourself, understand where this all started, how it continues, institutional racism, like get it. It boggles the mind. There's so much information out there. There's so many things to eat up as far as, history and understanding that it's just really not hard to find a place to start. I just really encourage people to start listening. That's the most important part. Listening.
Exactly.
And taking it in and making that change in your heart and in your own life. And it will trickle out. It'll domino effect,
Yeah.
I could go on for days about that, but I'm glad to know that you're doing well. And I pray that things will get better, that we'll find a place.
Pray every day.
Couple months that things will start to get better. We'll see on that front.
Pray so hard every day. I pray for the world. I pray for all the people we've lost to this horrible
Oh, I know.
pandemic. I pray for the families of all the, the victims of, the police brutality, and it's exhausting. But, and my mom is like the prayer warrior of the world.
Yes.
So I know how to pray. I learned it from my mom.
Girl, I was raised Southern Baptist in Southern Oklahoma. You want to talk about praying? I know some things.
So my husband was born in Guthrie, Oklahoma. I don't know if that. Yes.
No way. What in the world are you? That's crazy.
Okay. And also, Marcus Osborne was on my show for a while.
Yeah.
So we're connected, and we didn't even know it, girl.
It's pretty nuts. I know, right? It's like, yeah, we're, what is it? 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Right? Yeah. Seriously, yeah, Marcus is a love. He's a gem. That's weird. That's a weird Oklahoma connection. I do want to touch on you talking about all of the things that are going on right now is obviously a very big mental weight for all of us. And just like you, fitness is everything to me. And it's not about the way I look. It's not about, how I look in the mirror or vanity or any of that. I mean, maybe 5%, but really it's about health. It's about mental health and keeping myself sane, keeping myself healthy. I had my dad passed away 14 years ago. And it was because in part he was a very unhealthy person. And that was my wake up call. How did your fitness journey start? Your mental and physical health start? And what does your practice look like today?
Yeah, my mental practice is fairly new.
Yeah. Well, because it's much needed these days.
Much needed, yeah. But I really started trying to get into mindfulness maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, because I was just so overwhelmed with work. And again, I'm not good at saying no.
Me either.
Right? And that's Oprah calls it the disease to please, but but the other thing that we were talking about is because of what we do, and there's so few of us, it comes with responsibility. And for me, I'm the only Black woman PA announcer in baseball, and unfortunately we don't. Now that Jalen Davis is up in Sacramento, we don't have a Black player on our team right now, so I'm kind of like the Black face, of science,
right?
Which I take great pride in. And again, this is a team that I, grew up rooting for as a little girl, going to Candlestick. So that's a whole different conversation of how I ended up in this booth. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to say no, because I know that I have women watching me. I have young women and girls watching me. I have my community that, I have a huge responsibility to. So when I get that call, I'm like, well, of course I'm going to do this mentoring session. Of course I'm going to go on this panel. Of course I'm going to host the fundraiser for the Equal Justice. Of course I am.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, I'm not making time for myself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I was like, I've tried meditating before, and I can't settle this mind. But once I was given the freedom to, it's okay if your mind races. Yeah. That's normal. Just bring yourself back.
Bringing it back. Oh yeah.
Bring it back. But even just taking deep breaths when you're overwhelmed, that small thing has helped me tremendously. Just
stop.
It's amazing. Yeah. Just put it on pause. So I started getting into that and started saying no more and practice what I preach, because of course I tell that to other women. Yeah. You can't do everything. Yeah. And we're not going to be any good to anybody else. We're not taking care of ourselves. So I'm like, oh, you might want to practice what you preach.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Renel's like, la, 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 la. Yeah. I know. I'm the same way. I'm always like, can't pour from an empty cup, while I'm like, everywhere, all over the place. Yeah, I get it.
I know. So it's still a challenge for me, but I have gotten better at it. And my husband is great at saying, do you really need to do this one? Yeah. Do you realize what you've been doing for the past 6 days? So mindfulness, that's my practice. The first thing in the morning, I do my meditation, and then I write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for. The gratitude journal. I love that.
Me too, girl. 5 things every single morning. Yep. Yes. It lives on my desk. And then, that's my journal. Yep.
There you go. And then I have a vision board with all kinds of, motivational, encouraging phrases and things as well. But so I would start my day like that, and then head to the gym and get in almost like a 2-hour workout. Yes. Well, that's gone now. but my fitness journey began, as I mentioned, I was a fat kid, and I was Oprah before Oprah was Oprah. I was up, and I've been every size.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started jazzercising, if I can go way back to 1980. Girl, leg warmers, the whole thing, you know.
Oh, we need a picture of Renel and some 80s leg warmers. We need to make that happen.
that might be a Throwback Thursday shot coming your way. But that worked for me, because the other thing is, when I was a little girl, we weren't encouraged to play sports in the early 60s. It was, you know, like I look at my niece, Megan, who's played basketball and volleyball and soccer, you know, since she was little. And had I had that opportunity, who knows what it might have done for me.
Sure,
so I wasn't athletic. Fitness wasn't a thing, you know, other than PE in school, and who cares?
Yeah.
So once I got to jazzercise, I'm like, oh, this is like show business, you know, jazz hands, you know. I'm dancing and I'm sweating. I was like, I found something that worked for me. And then years later, I started working out with a trainer, and then it just really loved you know, weightlifting and that empowerment that comes from that.
Yes.
And that's been my jam for the last like 20 years.
That's
so
amazing.
I'm a late bloomer to the world of fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's such an important part. And again, for me, it's even more of a mental relief, you know, for me. It's more mental for me to just clear it all out than the physical aspect of it, which is interesting, because that's the same thing about baseball. Baseball, every player I've ever interviewed says the game is more mentally challenging than it is physically.
Really? That's so interesting. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I think people really underestimate the power of mental health when it comes to fitness, because I call running my moving meditation, because I try to meditate. And I'm like you just mentioned, it's hard for me because your mind is racing. You've got like 12 different tabs open all the time. And this is actually very recent. And I have a feeling you might have been there too. When Oprah was at the Chase Center this year, did you go to that?
I surely did.
Yep. You remember that moment where we all meditated together?
Yes.
That moment was like it for me. That was where I was like, okay, wow. I mean, I had tears streaming down my face. The power of like 12,000 people in one room meditating together. It was just like palatable. Like you could feel this energy in the air. It was incredible. And that was the moment I was like, okay, I'm going to take moving meditation, which is my running, because that's when I'm quiet and I'm not on the mic and I'm not entertaining and I'm not a dancing chicken and all that stuff. I'm just me. I'm quiet. And then I'm going to try to do it. So the first thing, because of COVID, this is like a silver lining, I guess. I go in my backyard 4:30 in the morning. I do my gratitude journal and I sit there and I'm quiet. And I just listen to hummingbirds and whatever the heck is happening. And I try to just keep it, bringing it back, because it's such everything is so mentally taxing right now. And I have a 4-year-old, so I don't have much quiet in my life. So it's a lot, but
you need that 4:30 moment. Yeah,
you do. It's worth getting up a little bit early for that. You know what I mean? But fitness, like I'm like you. And by the way, can we just talk about Renel's body? You are in bomb ass shape. I mean, those like that weightlifting and those workouts, sister. Oh my God, those arms, like you got the Michelle Obama arm thing happen. It's like, cacao. I mean,
thank you.
Goals.
A lot of work put in on those.
I bet. I bet. But yeah, you know, it's funny because you and I connected. I mean, we have like a million connections now. You are now a friend for life, just so you know. But we were connected through the giant race because you're the ambassador for the giant race this year. And in fact, the bobblehead, you're the bobblehead.
Okay, how weird is this sentence? No, this is my second bobblehead.
That's
Who
hilarious.
gets to say that?
Right? No kidding.
Right?
That's
no,
pretty
I
amazing.
was really honored. I know. In 2008, I was really honored. I was the bobblehead for African American Heritage Night in 2008.
Nice.
And and the whole bobblehead process is a big deal. You know, I'm involved every step of the way with the prototype. And the first bobblehead in 2008, the guys, again, only woman in the department at that time, the guys that I worked with, super, super sweet guys, they were actually more into producing than I was. They were like telling the guys, the manufacturers, no, her earrings need to be bigger. Her diamond on her hands, she needs highlights in her. I mean, they were like into it.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so they kind of replicated my whole setup in the booth, and this one is obviously different because she's running and everything. But
Right.
I'm really super honored to be selected. I'm the first lady ambassador for the race, the non-player. I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
But then the other thing too, Chasta, was like, oh great, the year that I'm really not as fit as I normally would be.
Right, that's the year they pick.
Right. I have no gym. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm eating freaking too much. And this is the year you want me to be the ambassador. Okay.
Thank you, COVID, of course, right? Yeah.
Right,
Seriously,
right.
I think it's so cool. When I saw that, before it was announced, I got the information from Giants Enterprises. They had emailed me and I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. I moved here in 2008, so I missed the first bobblehead. So I am excited about this bobblehead. It's awesome.
I'm excited about it too. Yeah. And again, for me, the message really is, just participate in any way that you can right now. You don't have to be a marathon runner. You can walk it at your own pace. The kids can walk. You can do it in your neighborhood, since obviously it's virtual. We can't all, gather on the field at Oracle Park at the finish line like we would like to. But since we are in such extraordinary times and such a challenging time, even if you just can get out for 15 minutes and get some fresh air and walk it out, I mean, it's just so important to, like we were saying, grab that time for yourself. And make it a priority. And we're all so mentally challenged. I mean, I can't imagine having, you said, a 4-year-old.
Yes.
I can't imagine distance learning on top of working. And we're all so challenged in so many ways right now. For me, I have a mom who's 94. We have our aging parents that we can't even really see. And it's just, I haven't seen my family, my nieces and nephews, since February, right? And they feed my soul. So we're all dealing with all this stuff. So if you can just get out and move, if you are a marathon runner, go do your thing. I'm proud of you. Keep going, do your. But it's also okay to walk it out and just move, just do something. And the other component here that I'm really excited about, which fits in so well, is that we're going to be raising money for the Bayview Hunters Point YMCA.
Love that. That's great.
To tie it all into fitness. And it was important that I pick a charity that is right in our neighborhood near the ballpark. And also, it's challenging in underprivileged communities to eat healthy and to get your fitness on. And the Bayview Y is doing amazing things, even in the midst of COVID, virtually and everything. So I really wanted to shine a focus on them and help raise some much needed funds for them as well.
You and I are so aligned on the way that we think and feel. I always say, I emailed it to you yesterday, do what you can with what you have where you are. You don't have to do the marathon. I've done half marathons before. I won't be with the giant race. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm doing the 5K because what's cool about the giant race this year, if we're looking for silver linings, is the fact that it's virtual. So you can literally do it from anywhere. So I'm going to be on vacation in Tahoe. We have a cabin up there and I'm running in Tahoe. And so when I was picking my race though, I was like 5K, 10K or half. All right. I run like 5 times a week, but I'm like, that's an altitude. That's a totally different story. I'm like, I'm not going to do a half marathon in altitude. So we're going to pull it back. So I'm doing the 5K as well, but I'll be running it amongst the beauty of Tahoe, virtually with everybody taking pictures and posting. And I'm so excited. And I do really think it's a cool thing. You can walk it, you can run it, hell, you can crawl it. We don't care. As long as you're out there doing something good for your health. The giant race is a really cool thing to get your butt off the couch and get you motivated in all this craziness, right?
It's so important right now. And I was a good runner for a long time. And with my trainer Elizabeth, we would run, and she's a good talker. And I just tell me stories while I run. Just keep talking.
Yeah.
And entertain me and everything.
Yeah.
But then there were, after I really got into it, I said to her one morning, I said, "Oh my God, I can really feel my core." And she almost burst into tears because she's like, "Now you're really a runner.
Yeah.
You did it. You're a runner." And I think I emailed you that. I tried to start running after shelter in place, and my old body was like, "Excuse you, you haven't done this in a few years."
Yeah.
you're not in your 50s or your 40s anymore, so just back off a little bit.
Yeah,
okay?
calm down a little bit. It's always amazing. There are certain things when you're a runner, there are certain things, and it always makes me laugh when you get out there, you're a couple blocks into your run and you feel like you're like a parkour expert. Like I can jump off a building, I can like leaps and bounds, I'm good. Then you like get 2 miles in, you're like, son of a, what am I doing? But it is a mental game. Going back to baseball, it's true. Like some things are just, you got to get in your head and it's mind over matter, and running is that way. So if you want to run, go for it, but you don't have to. The giant race is literally for everybody and anybody. So if you guys want to register, I want to make sure we get out the information, giantrace.com. So it's a really, really cool thing. And I am so honored that it was able to connect us, Renel. I'm so just blown away by who you are. You're such an inspiration on a million different levels. So thank you really for taking the time with me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I knew you were going
to.
Yeah, it really is. I know. Yeah, we're going to have more of these chats hopefully in the future. Where will you be doing the giant race from? Your neighborhood?
I'm going to be doing it. Yeah, McLaren Park. I live near McLaren Park. So
okay.
myself and Lizzie, my trainer, we're gonna power walk it and maybe get a good run in there. I got a couple of weeks to get myself back up to speed. So far, so good.
That's right.
Good. But yeah, I'll be doing it here in my neighborhood. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, you do get the bobblehead when you register. You also get a T-shirt and a Giants gator and playlists. Alyssa Nacken, the first female coach in Major League Baseball.
I love that.
She's got a playlist.
And most importantly for me, the medal. Fantastic? You running for the medal.
Come on.
I mean,
you gotta come on.
And how cool, like all of it's Giants swag. So you get all this Giants coolness and you got a Giants medal. So you can look on your wall and be like, I did a thing. Look at that. I did a thing.
Exactly. And that will continue to inspire you to keep moving.
Absolutely. You do one thing and I always tell myself that, and I've talked about that in this podcast too. You do little things and then you build on top of them. And then you start going, okay, I did that thing, so I can do this thing. And you just build on top of it. And that's why running is and I know you have talked about baseball being a metaphor for life. Your commencement speech, by the way, you did a couple years ago is so inspiring. People need to go watch that. I'm going to post that in my show notes because if you need a pep talk, it's so good. It's so good. I've watched that several times actually. But you talk about baseball being a metaphor for life. And I feel that way about running too. You just build on those steps, one step at a time. You just keep going through, keep making it. Well, yeah. I could spend a long, long time with you, Renel. I really appreciate you. And I hope we will talk again soon.
I do too. This has just been a joy for me. And again, long overdue. And like you said, we're friends for life. We're connected now.
I love it.
And please call on me if you need me for anything, even if you just need to vent. Like I said, I have good girlfriends in this business.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. I know. Us radio girls, we got to stick together.
Got to stick together, girl. So listen, I'm really proud of you. And just keep on doing what you're doing. Continued success to you. And next time we do this, can we have wine?
Oh my God, I was just going to say that. That's so weird. I was like, the only thing, I feel like I just kicked my feet up and have been hanging with my bestie for like 40 minutes. I'm like, the only problem is I'm looking around for my cocktail. I'm like, where's my beer? I run for beer too. That's a true story.
Girl, I run for tequila. That's what I do.
I have a little charm on my running shoe that says run for beer. I'm going to get you one that says run for tequila. I love it. I love you, doll. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Love you too. Thanks for this opportunity.
Oh gosh, thank you. Bye-bye.